welcome to a gloriously sunny Upton on Severn near the Malvern Hills. I'm in search of the Green Man. Not this guy here, but just around the corner is Jeremy Griffiths, who's a medical herbalist. And we're going to go to the apothecary called the Green Man, and he's going to teach us more about herbal remedies, how they can help us heal. And we're going to go foraging with him. So come on, let's go meet him. How did you get into this?
I grew up in Canada. Sort of woke up one morning and had almost a moment of epiphany when I kind of changed a lot of my belief systems, and I'd felt that I'd been going through life for a long time, not connected closely enough to the earth. We spent a lot of time in Northern Ontario. I was very much influenced by the Native Americans, and that sense of harmony that they had within their society of healing themselves with plants, of using plants to make, canoes, and just seeing someone make a birch bark canoe is an absolute work of art. It's just a beautiful thing, and then see it just glide across the water. And also my own background, which is a mixture of Celtic and Viking, is tapping into those histories and seeing how people lived on the land and use the power. I had some books, field books, and so I started going out in a large park out there and finding plants, identifying them, and then I was drying them and building up a collection, and I just got more and more into it. I trained as a 5-star chef in Toronto. There's a massive amount of stress involved in that, and some people in the chefing world sadly turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol to try and compensate for that stress. But for me, those were never options. I would go out into nature and just walk, and that would just, the first 5 minutes, my mind would just be racing. And after that, everything would start crashing in, the birds, the smells, the sounds, and that would just bring me down, that would calm me. It's our natural habitat, and what it does for people on a mental level is it resets their place in the universe. For me, I find the divine in nature. I look to nature. Nature is a consistent. And for me, if I am looking for answers, I go to nature. I've been doing this professionally for nearly 20 years now. I've been working with herbs medically since the mid-1980s. And what I see with it is very, very powerful in the sense that it is gentle, but it is effective, and it does bring results, and it brings results in a lot of areas. So it seems to me absolutely normal that we go back to the natural world for answers for a lot of conditions. I haven't taken any pharmaceuticals since the mid-1980s. I have treated myself for whatever number of complaints I've had, and also treated my family for the most part with herbs. People come in here sometimes and they'll say, oh, I've got this condition, what herb can I take? And what they're basically saying to me is, give me something that will make the symptoms go away, but doesn't require any sort of change on my part. And I say to them, that isn't how it works here, okay? That is more symptom management. Anything that affects your body very quickly, you cannot trust because it's affecting mechanisms in the body. And as soon as you stop taking those drugs, you'll very much be back where you started from. Whereas in the case of holistic medicine, the herbs I'm giving, I'm appealing to the body intelligence, and we're looking at the cause and other factors, and we will be working from multifaceted sort of approaches. And we're looking for an actual organic change. And organic change comes slowly, okay? It doesn't come immediately. It doesn't come in a week, especially if, we're looking at something where someone has abused themselves with drugs or alcohol for years, or bad diet, or there's been emotional issues, that they're looping in and keep repeating those. We can work with things like the Bach flower remedies to help remedy those patterns. And that allows people then to shift perspective and move forward. And perspective is another thing that's massively important in treating people, because it's their very viewpoint of the world. It's how they perceive the world that can bring them down or have an impact on them in many emotional ways. And so, as I say, working with the Bach flower remedies, we can help shift those perspectives and gently have them start to see life in a different way, which gives them hope, and then that starts to perpetuate the healing process.
So you go right to the root of the issue.
I don't treat the disease, I treat the dis-ease. I'm interested in factors such as lifestyle, emotional situations, and diet predominantly. And looking at all those and getting to know the person and understand the person. The core and the success of what I do is about giving time to listen to people, working intuitively. There's an inner truth in all of us. We know when we're doing things that aren't good for us. Chronology plays a massive part in understanding a case, so going back and saying, you know, if something suddenly started 10, 20 years ago, the question is what was going on 10, 20 years ago? And then the story starts to unravel. And every approach, and in terms of chronic cases, every medicine that I mix is tailored to that individual.
Tell me about the intent and love that you put in when you create remedies.
Everything in the universe is energy. So our thoughts are energy and they have an impact. And, you know, there are indigenous belief systems that have been saying this for thousands of years. You know, the mind can influence the material world. The Green Man is a very old symbol. For me, it's a symbol of healing and rejuvenation. So I think when we go back to nature and try and harmonize with nature and understand nature and work with nature, that was the intent for us. The symbol that I have on all my things here, the Green Man image, is actually an image of myself. That a local artist, Catherine Burrows, she said, I want a picture of you. So she took a picture of me right here actually, and then she drew my face by hand, and then she added all the flora and fauna and acorns and stuff. And so the Green Man is me, and I am the Green Man. Part of doing the herb walks is because I want to give this knowledge back to people.
But even more so to excite them about engaging with this themselves.
As a sort of home first aid, you know, go out, learn those things, and as long as you do it in a responsible way and that you don't get out of your depth. My rule is that if you're identifying a plant, then you need to be able to identify at least two aspects of it. The smell, like for example, elder, the leaves have a distinct smell that you'll never forget. In some things, the taste, if it's a safe plant.
This lady smoke doesn't produce a lot of leaves, but there's a point in that. The pepperiness of it is so massive, you wouldn't want tons of it. Ground elder has a very similar taste to parsley, and it has a lot of nutrients. It has medicinal values. What we forget is that our indigenous food was what we find in the hedgerows.
And the sad thing is that we're seeing a lot of the habitats dying out.
It has to be done in a sustainable way, taking plants from where they're thriving, not just surviving. And if they're grown in your garden, they're big and lush, that means they're happy there. And so starting to recognize that, be thankful for that and utilizing that.
Everything is a living thing and everything has its right to life and live. The other day I was gathering some elecampane roots, and I just don't take the whole thing. I take parts of it, what I need, and then I put it back, and then I've seen it this year. It's coming back again, it's growing again, and the roots will regenerate.
It's reciprocity, isn't it?
Yep, so some leaf mulch goes into the soil just so that they're always being fed and given something back.
So this plant is one called Ribwort. Then I tend to use more specifically this one for lung conditions.
The doctrine of signatures is a belief in this ancient edict that says that the divine has placed a symbol in plants to tell you what they're good for in terms of their medical use.
If you take away the Y in the word yarrow, you're left with the word arrow. And in fact, its botanical name is Achillea milfolium. And Achilles was said to have used this to staunch the wounds of his soldiers. What it's representing is the circulatory system, because you have the main arteries and then breaking off into the arterioles and then down to the capillaries.
This is called gill or the ground, or ground ivy.
Pick a leaf here, and I'm asking the plant if I can have a leaf, so I've got to be a little tender with it and not pull the whole plant apart.
And you look at that, to me, that looks like a gill, like a fish's gill. And that's given an indication what it's potentially used for, which is catarrhal state. So
they used to make a tea called gill tea from this, drying it and making a tea. It has a very, very pleasant flavor.
It's healing when they engage with the natural world. It ties us into the place we live. It ties us into the area we live, and they feel empowered. One of the things I show people on my herb walks is nettles and cleavers. There is loads of it. So it's, to me, that's the divine screaming out, look, you need this. It's the male-female element in equal amounts, working in harmony. The nettles are very much for cleaning the blood.
And the flavour is, for me, is superior to spinach. You can make it as a soup. You can make it to go over a baked potato as a kind of sauce. So one of the things that birch is well known for is actually getting acids out of the body. Burdock is queen of herbs. It's good for blood cleansing, good for the liver. It's excellent for skin conditions. And also it has a place for people who have a history of deep emotional problems. It has a very deep root. So daisies is another plant that we see quite often. It can be used for catarrhal states and as an expectorant, but it also has a use for wounds, which is primarily known for. All the parts of the dandelion are usable. The flower of the dandelion you can make into a fantastic wine. The stem of the dandelion, you can see very small amount of white latex or sap there, and that can be used against things like warts. The leaf of the dandelion is an amazing source of food. It also has medicinal properties. It's high in potassium. And then the roots of the dandelion have a great affinity with the liver. They're very bitter, and so they're good as a liver tonic, a gallbladder tonic.
During this past 2 years, it's been hard on so many throughout the world, and there's an awful lot of fear and anxiety. What sort of herbs can help you with that?
I think really, like any condition where your body's coming under attack, it's really about improving your own defenses. And so that would be looking at herbs that will affect the immune system, herbs like echinacea or broadleaf plantain, herbs like Calendula officinalis, which is pot marigold, which is not indigenous but it grows in a lot of gardens. Equisetum marvense, which is horsetail. These are herbs, these are indigenous herbs that actually help the immune system spark up and the production of white cells so that the body has that ability to defend itself. I think also keeping a balanced mind and not getting overly fearful. So calming herbs would be good for that. Anything like chamomile, linden tea, melissa, which is lemon balm, those kinds of teas would be good for calming and balancing yourself emotionally. And the use of the Bach flower remedies.
Tell me your dream as a medical herbalist for people, for humanity.
Well, I would just like to share the knowledge I have to bring balance back into people's life and health back into their life and into the life of their families and friends around them.
The benefits just ripple out always, don't
The
they?
more people who are healed, balanced and healthy, the more balanced and healthy society we have. But I have and have had for a long time a much larger dream, and that is seeing medicine move forward in a way that doesn't set up walls, that everyone sits at an equal round table and that everyone has an equal input, and to sort of have this system that we have now that's predominantly dominated by one source of medicine, which from my experience and the experience of a lot of my colleagues falls short very often because they are not wanting or unable to think out of the box. That is starting to change, which is encouraging. And I think it's that our primary focus as healers should be our patients, not about financial interests, not about egos. It's about our patients, and whatever form that we need to use to best suit the needs of those patients is what we should be using. But first and foremost, there is no other way.
Thank you, Jeremy. And if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share with your community.